Terrorism is the biggest threat our world is facing globally, and it is the biggest human rights violation our world has ever faced. The threat of terrorism is grave and universal, and can only be defeated by the collective efforts of all nations. You know, the most peculiar feature of terrorism, as the famous dictum, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter, indicates, is that the same kind of action will be described differently by different observers depending on what and where it took place and whose side the observer is on. The continued absence of universally agreed definition of terrorism is detrimental to the shared goal of eliminating the global scourge. In line of this thought, almost 2 decades ago, there was a time when the world was divided on terrorism. But as time has passed and this threat spread globally, the world realized that your terrorist and my terrorist impact not only a particular country but the entire world. We can say that the milestone in the change of perspective was the 9/11 US attack. After the horrible attack, the world, which was divided earlier, accepted that terror in one part of the world impacts the other parts and came together to fight it collectively. However, in the recent terror attacks, like the Christchurch mosque attack, Paris attack, Pulwama attack, Sri Lanka Easter bombings, Kabul attack, we have seen how the world came together and condemned strongly. Recently, India's permanent representative at the UN ambassador T.S. Tirumurti said that
I do hope that member states do not forget history and divide terrorism again into different categories and take us back to the era of your terrorists and my terrorists and erase the gains we have had over the last 2 decades.
terrorism in all forms should be condemned without any ifs and buts, and there cannot be any exception or justification for any acts of terrorism. We are reminded time and again that justifying terrorism in any way on the grounds of religion, ideology, ethnicity, or race will only provide necessary fodder for terrorists to enhance the activities even more. Also, terrorism should not be associated with any religion, nationality, civilization, or ethnic group. Still, there are many countries or a group of people who are biased in condemning terrorism as per their agenda. Such practices are the obstacles in the path of fighting terrorism globally.
आतंक के खिलाफ पूरे विश्व का एकमत होना, एकजुट होना मैं अनिवार्य समझता हूं.
And I say to everyone that France will be standing on the forefront of the battle against terrorism, both at home and abroad. As long as this battle will last, we will be there.
How we can fight against terrorism? We need to adopt a zero tolerance policy towards terrorism. Call out those who harbor terror groups and provide any kind of support. Strong condemnation of terrorism in loud and clear voice. A central element in the fight against terrorism should be track down terrorists, freeze terrorist funds. The United Nations and Financial Action Task Force should pursue these measures with critical scrutiny. In recent years, new terminologies on terror have come up, such as racially and ethnically motivated violent extremism, violent nationalism, right-wing extremism. These terminologies should not be adopted to divide the world once again. Instead, the adoption of global counter-terror strategies should be embraced. Terrorism in all forms should be condemned, with no exceptions and no justifications.